Hello, and welcome to Real Takes with me and Stott, your host, where we are all movie love all the time. I am so thrilled you're here with me for the first episode of Real Takes, where we are talking about Bright Star, which came out in 2009. It's directed by Jane Campion, starring Ben Whishaw, Abbie Cornish, and Kerry. First, I have to tell you, it was really hard to choose the first film for this new show. I went back and forth and up and down and in and out. There were like 5 or 6 different films that were in the number one slot for a while, but I finally landed on this one, and I think it's so perfect that I did, because I'm starting the show to share how much I love these films. I have an unironic, unabashed passion and love for really all forms of creativity, but film in particular. And this movie is an unironic, unabashed story of love and passion between two creative people. So it's kind of a perfect beginning to this show. So Bright Star is about the British early 19th century romantic poet John Keats and his love affair with Fanny Braun, which lasted several years. And it's kind of amazing that Jane Campion directed this movie, because until this film, she had built her career on making films that are hard, unsparing looks at some of the most difficult issues in life, and in particular difficult issues for women who are confined and contained and it's sometimes terrorized by misogyny and violence. In particular, her most famous movie, most of you probably know, is The Piano, for which she became only the 3rd woman to ever be nominated for Best Directing Oscar, which says a lot about her talent, but it also says a lot about the state of the Oscars, which hopefully is changing. And the movie she made before this film is called In the Cut. It starred Meg Ryan, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Mark Ruffalo, and it's about a woman living in the Lower East Side of New York City, and there's a serial killer on the loose who murders women and cuts off their heads, and she doesn't know who she can trust, and nowhere is safe. So it was a big surprise and shift for Jane Campion to go from that to this chaste, open-hearted, passionate, love affair film about a romantic poet from the early 19th century. And when I say chaste, I want to say that I've watched many interviews now with Jane Campion about this film, and she believes that it was a chaste love affair. They weren't able to marry. And if Jane Campion believes it was chaste, that is unconsummated, which is to say they never had sex, then I believe it was truly chaste. And there's no sort of glossing over of the issues there. So the incredible thing is, though, about this film is that Jane Campion brings all of her tough, unsparing, courageous view to the issue of first love, true love, passionate love between two creative people. So we get the whole range of feelings, from the excitement, but also the confusion, how overwhelming love can be, how terrifying love can be, and how brutal and painful love can be. And she doesn't shy away from any of those elements. And of course, because she's Jane Campion, it never gets sappy or schlocky or melodramatic. It's just this very true, open look at this experience. And it's also fascinating. Jane Campion says in a lot of interviews that she really didn't want to make a beautiful period piece. And in fact, there were times when they would do a shot and she would say it was too pretty. It can't be this pretty. we have to make it less pretty, which is kind of shocking because it's a beautiful film. They shot most of it around this house in, I believe, Hempstead. Am I getting that right? That might not be right. England, which doubled as 2 different houses, actually. And when they rented it in the spring, you know, there were fields and woods, and there were lots of different places where they could do things in nature, which is good because John Keats wrote Ode to a Nightingale and, you know, other poems about the beauties of nature. But they didn't realize how beautiful it was going to be. And at different points throughout the shoot, you know, a field of daffodils would be in bloom, and then a field of bluebells would be in bloom. And they use those things. But she says there are times when they literally cut down a whole field of flowers because she didn't want it to be that pretty. And it's so powerful because it's incredibly detailed. Fanny Braun, John Keats's lover, was clearly a really unique woman, and she was a seamstress. Now, lots of women sewed their own clothes then, but she cared about fashion, was really an artist with seam work and her clothing. And so there's all this sort of sensual feeling around her clothes. But what we get really, I think, because of Jane Campion's focus, is we experience their experience of beauty rather than, look, we made a period piece with lots of pretty fields and skies and period furniture. I mean, the details are all there, but we're focused on them, focused on each other and beauty, rather than getting caught up in looking at the periodness of it all, which is another place where I think it's genius. There's a moment in the movie when Ben Whishaw, as John Keats, says, a poem needs understanding through the senses. The point of diving in a lake is not immediately to swim to the shore, but to be in the lake, to luxuriate in the sensation of water. You do not work the lake out. It is an experience beyond thought. And I feel like that's the experience of this film. We get taken into these 2 creative, sensual people's world and how they're discovering themselves through discovering each other becomes this like sensual, tactile experience. And you can feel in the film that feeling you have when you're newly in love and all your senses are heightened and the air is crackling, and that happens in the movie, and then we feel it. And I feel different when I watch the film. I feel heightened and aware on all kinds of new levels that that I love. So it's a really beautiful film, and of course it's beautifully acted. Ben Whishaw, I'd only seen him in one other thing before this. He was in Todd Haynes' I'm Not There as one of 7 different actors playing Bob Dylan. I had loved him in that, so I was so excited to see him in this. And Abbie Cornish gives just a beautiful, open-hearted performance. There's a scene toward the end of the film that's like the kind of scene, as an actor, I can say, like, actors really want, and then this kind of scene terrifies them too. And when they're false, they're so false, and she's just so fully present and available and honest. It's so moving. I want to make sure I don't forget anything. I guess I'll just say that I saw another interview with Jane Campion, where she said that people had been telling her that this is her best film to date. Now, this is over 10 years ago, so I don't know if she'd still say that, but at the time she said that people were telling her it was her best film. And she said she agreed that this is her best film, and that she thought at the time, this is 2009, that it was her most mature work to date. And for Jane Campion to say that about her own work means something, which means we all need to go watch it. I've watched it many times, and I will watch it many times again over the course of the coming years. And there's a nice little meta story here, which is that Ben Whishaw met his husband on the shoot of this movie. His husband is the composer of the stunning music in the film, and they met on this film and fell in love and got married. So there was a little meta love story happening in the midst of the love story. So thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Real Takes, and I hope you like the movie. Please, if you've seen it, comment. If you go watch it, come back and let me know what you think of it, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching Real Takes. Hit the subscribe button below so the algorithms will tell you when new episodes are out. And if you want to support Real Takes, please visit my Patreon page where you can join at any tier from $2 to $100 per thing I make. The $15 tier is specifically about supporting Real Takes, and you'll get behind the scenes information and be thanked in future videos. See you next Wednesday.